Welcome back to another episode of Consciously Clueless. I'm your host, Carly, and I'll be your guide on this journey from consciousness to cluelessness and back around again. Thanks for joining another solo episode. I'm really excited you're here. Whether it is Sunday night, you're gearing up for the week, it's Monday morning, you're getting ready for work, or whatever day this podcast episode has found you, I'm so glad you're here. Before I get started into today's topic, I want to read a review of the week from Apple Podcasts. This review is short, it is sweet, it is the first review I had, and it is from my beautiful friend Marie Martinez. I chose this because it will segue right into what I want to talk about today. She wrote, "It's about time you had a podcast." That's it. That's the review. And she's so right. Thank you for Marie for reminding me of this. Because it was about time I did the thing that I talked about wanting to do for so long. Today's episode is inspired by that thought and also this quote that I want to share with all of you that I've been thinking about a lot. To burn with desire and keep quiet about it is the greatest punishment we can bring on ourselves. I'm going to read it again. To burn with desire and keep quiet about it is the greatest punishment we can bring on ourselves. Fredrico Garcia Lorca. I love this quote. It so embodies how I was feeling in building this platform. I was burning with the desire to make this thing happen, to make it be a real podcast, a real brand, a real business. And here we are. I'm talking to you on this podcast on episode 19. I can't even believe that. So when I think about this quote, I also think about a lot of the conversations happening in society at large right now. I need to hear your voices. I want to hear more people. Let me explain what I mean. There are so many hard conversations going on in the world right now. There are so many things being brought to light. I've said this before, but it's just something that has to be talked about because it is true and it is happening and we are all feeling it, whether you know it or not. And I know that more people have this burning desire, but keep quiet. This burning desire to talk about what's going on, to ask questions, to stand up for what they believe in, but they keep quiet. And why do we do that? Why do we keep quiet? There's a lot of reasons someone might keep quiet about something they're passionate about. It could be that they are afraid of what would happen if they use their voice. It could be that it's unsafe to use your voice and to speak up. It could be that they're worried that they're going to say something wrong. They're going to screw up. It could be so many reasons why that burning desire to be involved or to speak up gets quieted. But I am calling on anybody listening to speak up. We get really entangled in the concern of what people will think about us when we stand up for something. What people will think when they find out this is how we think about the world or what we believe in, what we feel, our reactions, whatever it is. It's really easy, myself included, I'm not outside of this camp, to get worried about what people will think, because not everyone's going to agree when you stand up for what you believe in. But the people who are suffering, if you are not a part of that group and you are standing up for them, that's what matters. That's what we have to reframe our thinking. I need to hear your voices. There are things I have shared on social media that I think get no response, or the posts that get really little traction and not a lot of interaction. And I kind of figure, okay, well, that wasn't a popular one. That's okay. And I just think no one heard that one. And then I'll get a random instant message or a random message on Instagram about how this post made someone think differently, or it made them make a small change in their life. And I'm not saying that because it's anything I did in particular. I just sparked someone's burning desire that was already there, and it just needed a push. You could do that for someone else. I need to hear your voice. We all have that burning desire within us. I believe that we're all born with that desire to want to do good in the world and to want to be good to other people. But our society kind of squeezes that out of us, because instead we're made to focus on competition and being worried that the people next door have more or getting more or using the system or whatever it is. But if you share something, or if you speak up in a crowd, or if you propose something at work to change, you might help someone else's burning desire, to continue with this quote. You might fuel the flame, so to speak. I guess I'll just continue with this fire analogy. That flame might get bigger in them, and then there's two of you that are speaking up because it matters. I know how hard it can be to be worried about what will happen, but I really need your voices. I need your voices. I need you to speak up. I need you to share. I need you to be brave. As Glennon Doyle says, we can do hard things. We can. It's not always going to work out perfectly. In fact, I can tell you for sure that it's not. But you might spark some domino effect in someone, and you might never know. You might never know that you ignited something in someone, but I bet you did. And then they might ignite that in someone else. There's often this conversation about what can one person do. It's really easy to feel that when there's so many things going on in the world. Like, what can I do really about global warming? Or what can I really do as a white woman about racism? Or what can I do about XYZ? But you have to start somewhere. And I know that's corny, but that's not corny. That's just a fact. You do have to start somewhere. And if you start with what you know, or try, you might influence someone, and they might influence someone. So it's really not just what can one person do, it's where can one person start. And you can start with your voice. You can start with wherever you have power, or wherever you have an audience. If someone gives you the space to talk, and if you have people listening to you, there are people who would kill just to have someone listen to them. So if you have that privilege where people will listen to you because they care about what you think, use it. Use that voice to make change. And it can look really different for different people. I know that sometimes I have been judgmental of how others do their activism, because for a long time I thought it should look exactly how I do my activism, or exactly how I use my voice, but I know that's not true. So do it in whatever way it makes sense to you. But I want to hear your voices. We need to hear each other's voices. We have to. It's imperative. Because that burning desire to speak up and to make change, it's there. You have to find that thing that makes you feel that. Whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of things to work on right now. Pick one. Start somewhere. And start with your voice and what you can do. And I think, as I have been, you would be surprised at what starting with your own voice can do. Because if you're anything like me, you want to start with tackling this big problem head on. And sometimes I forget that I need to slow down. I can't take down the system alone. So I have to start with what I can do. And then I connect with others that are also starting with what they can do. But no matter where we're starting, we can start with our own voice. And we can listen. We have to listen to each other even if we don't agree. Because that's how we learn. And that's how we grow. And that's how we understand another way of thinking. An interview I did this week that will be coming out shortly. She is a psychologist, and she talks about not teaching people what to think, but teaching people how to think, which is so powerful. Because it's easy to get in a pattern day after day of just doing the same thing and not really having any critical thinking about what's going on in the world, especially if you're privileged enough to not have to. But we have to keep remembering how to think and grow and use our voice. I mean, I feel like I'm begging because I know what it feels like to use your voice and have no one support you. So even if you're not someone to start the conversation, back somebody up in the conversation. Message them and tell them you appreciated their words. It means a lot, and it's encouraging for people who do throw it out there, that they know someone's listening. I want to hear all of your beautiful voices coming together. And they're not going to come together on the same issue, but they can still come together if our goal is the same. And if that's really just making the world better, as idealistic as that might be, our voices will come together. But please never underestimate what your voice can do and where you can start. That quote doesn't just apply to society at large. That's what it made me think of initially. But the last part of that quote, the greatest punishment we can bring on ourselves is to keep quiet about it. That's the greatest punishment. So you also cause yourself harm. If you think of everything as an interconnected web, as a never-ending hoop, by not speaking up for something you believe in, by not speaking up for the people that need help, you're punishing yourself too, because when others suffer, we suffer. If you really think that humans are connected, then we have to keep fighting until there isn't suffering, or really we are suffering. We are punishing ourselves. We are bringing it on ourselves when we don't speak up. Nothing feels better than being able to use your voice and try and make change. It's hard, but nothing feels better than knowing that you are trying to show up. And I say trying because it is not a perfect system. You're going to screw up, but you can still show up. Use your voice. There are so many people whose voices will never be heard. So if you can use yours, don't waste it. Don't waste the moment. Don't waste the power that you have. Don't waste it. Even when people don't believe you, even when people don't want to listen, I guarantee you someone is listening. Someone is hearing you. Someone is nodding their head. Someone is thanking you for your words. And you may never know, but you just have to believe that that's true. And they're not respectful, or they're petty, or they're argumentative, or they don't want to listen. You planted a seed. And those are the hard conversations to have. I'm not suggesting anybody want to try and be confrontational, but when you speak up for things that matter to you, that's bound to happen. But even if it doesn't go exactly how you want, you at least tried, and you planted a seed that that's what you believe, and that's where your line is when you stand up for what you believe in. And no matter what, that's good for yourself. That's good for your own self to know and to feel, for you to set that and you to put that into the world. I'm going to say it one more time because I think I've already said it 50 times. But the summary of this podcast is to use your voice. All week I have felt really drained again. But when I use my voice and I am surrounded by others doing the same, I feel a little better. I feel comforted by that notion of knowing that I am trying to show up in this world, even when it doesn't go exactly how I thought it would. Because I would rather try than keep quiet about that burning desire. Because I don't want to punish myself by not speaking up for others. Thanks for listening to another episode of Consciously Clueless. I so appreciate you taking time to hang out with me in this episode. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you're subscribed to wherever you're listening. And if you could help me grow this podcast and this platform by sharing, whether you text a friend or send it in an email or post on social media, whatever's your jam, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to be read as a review of the week in the future, go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Until next time.